I want to start out by thanking everyone for coming to today's virtual career fair featuring Kohls and hosted by UW Milwaukee. I'm just going to take a second here to share my screen, so just bear with me. So I first off want to thank Haley Carr, who works for UW Superior Career Services. She's been the catalyst of every single career trek this year, offering the tech support, making sure things go off without a hitch for both the host as well as the various employers. So thank you, Haley. I just posted the official registration form. So the students who are logged in, you may have not seen it if you logged in just recently, but I will post it again here shortly. We need every student to fill out this registration form so we can verify that you attended this event and can communicate with you afterwards as well. So please take a moment to click on that link and fill out that brief registration form. A little bit of history for those who might not be familiar with the career treks. This is a system-wide, UW system-wide initiative that all 13 schools are participating in with the support of the UW system president, Tommy Thompson. This past fall, we did 13 virtual career treks, and we plan to do an additional 13 more this semester for a total of 26. On the website that you can see on this PowerPoint, you can go there and look at and view any of the past recording of the various companies. So feel free to go back there if you're not familiar with that site to review those other career treks. This one is being recorded as well and will be posted by next Wednesday on the same website. So feel free to, if you want to share it with a friend after the fact, you're more than welcome to do so. I want to highlight briefly next week's trek, which is hosted by UW Whitewater and featuring Uline. It'll take place on Wednesday, April 28th at 2 p.m. All the career treks have been taking place on a Wednesday at 2. So to log in and to register for this future career trek, you can do so on Handshake. We're going to be putting up 2 poll questions that I ask that every student fill out to highlight so the speakers as well as myself know who's in the audience. So what school you attend as well as what year in school you are. So please take a moment to do that. As we're waiting for results on that poll, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are welcome to ask questions throughout the course of the PowerPoint presentation by Kohls. I just ask that you put those questions in the chat box. As at the end of their presentation, we will go back and look at all the questions that are asked, and Kohls will do their best to answer any questions that you have as relates back to their company and any of their opportunities. Without further ado, I see that the post polls have come back. You see that Stout or Stevens Point lead the way there at 42%. And then year in school, looks like senior lead the way with 42%, but you can see there are quite a few other individuals as well. So I'm going to kick it off, let Brittany kick it off with Kohls. Take it away, Brittany.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? I can only see a few of you. All right, awesome. So I am going to share my screen really quick. All right, can we see that okay? Perfect. Thank you everyone for head nods. All right, so my name is Brittany Roy, and I am a early talent recruiter at Kohls. So welcome to our brief Kohls 101. I'm just going to jump to the next slide here for our agenda for the day. So I'll be kicking things off with just a high-level overview of Kohls as a company before we introduce you to our panelists, who are representatives from different areas of the business. And they will actually walk you through their day-to-day and kind of what they're responsible for within their department. So chatting about specific career paths. And then we will wrap up by talking about the internship and different opportunities that we have for students. And then, like Dan mentioned, we will open it up to Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to send them in chat or just wait till the end. All right. So our first little thing here is we will go through Kohl's history. So does anyone on the call today know what Kohl's started out as before it was a department store? I know we're nervous on unmuting, so if you need to chat it in, feel free. Let's see, pull up my chat. Yes, Kim, thank you for your answer. It was a grocery store. So all the way back to 1962, Kohl's began as a grocery store here in Wisconsin. So we like to start off with this little slide here just to give you some visuals as to what we were working with. And you can kind of picture what the Kohl's department store has turned into now. Hopefully all of you shop there frequently. We love a good customer experience. So this slide here just shows you the timeline of how we've progressed over the last 60 years, which is crazy to say. So all the way back from 1962 with the first Kohl's grocery store, bringing the company public in the 90s, and then in the early 2000s, launching our e-commerce site, as well as opening our first store in California. So early 2000s is when Kohl's was officially from coast to coast. So we do have stores in 49 of the 50 states. The only state we don't is Hawaii. And then early 2000s into 2014 is when we launched the famous Kohl's Cash, which if you shop there, maybe your mom, your aunt, your grandma, anyone in your family shops there, you know how important Kohl's Cash is, and it continues to remain relevant today. And then getting into more recent years, 2019, we launched our Amazon returns program in stores, which I'll get into a little bit later, as well as 2020. We all know what 2020 was, but during this time, we were actually able to revamp our Kohl's mobile app and implement curbside pickup, which is sure to stick around post-pandemic. All right, so through the years, we've gotten to Kohl's today. So this slide is just kind of a very high level snapshot to give you an idea of how large the company actually is. So we are still based here in Menomonee Falls. So basically in your backyard, if you're here in Milwaukee, and we are home to over 140,000 associates. So that's in our corporate office here, our corporate offices across the country, as well as our store and fulfillment center locations. So I'll get to that on the next slide, but just to kind of give you a scale of how large Kohl's is nationwide. And we do have 1,100 plus stores. So no matter what city you're living in, there's more than likely a Kohl's store pretty close. And then the other points on this slide I do like to touch on is more centered on philanthropy and giving back to the communities that we live and work. So first being our Kohl's Cares program, which is a merchandise program in our stores, usually a stuffed animal, a toy, a book of some kind, that when a customer purchases, we actually give money back to an organization. So up in the left-hand corner, Kohl's raised over $375 million through that program. These numbers are slightly outdated, obviously, because 2020 was a weird year, but we're looking at 2019 numbers in this slide. So the other piece of this is our Kohl's Associate Volunteer Program, which if you ever intern with us or work with us full time, you'll hear a lot about. It's a great program where you as a Kohl's associate can bring along other Kohl's associates to an organization, a nonprofit, really any volunteer opportunity. And if you volunteer 3 hours of your time, Kohl's will donate a $500 grant to that organization. So as of 2019, or in 2019, Kohl's associates had volunteered over 400,000 hours of their time, which is huge. You can just, I'm not going to do the mental math, but if you want to do the mental math, you can calculate how much money that was to nonprofits and different charities across the country. All right, so I mentioned that we are located, our corporate headquarters in Menomonee Falls, but this map will give you a better idea of where our other corporate headquarters are located. So in addition to Menomonee Falls, we also have our New York design office in Manhattan, our tech office in Milpitas, California, as well as our credit center in San Antonio, Texas. And then the other little markers here on the map indicate our e-com fulfillment centers. So if you're interested in supply chain or logistics, those opportunities are available across the country as well. All right, so jumping into who we are as a company and kind of our mission statement behind every day that we are going to work. So if you're ever in our corporate office, you will see this plastered on the walls. You'll hear it in different presentations. Our mission and our purpose behind everything we do is to inspire and empower families to lead fulfilled lives. So take this purpose statement, and once you hear from our different business representatives on the presentation today, you can kind of put that in the background and put it into context when they're talking about their roles and responsibilities. However, on a high level, we operate with that purpose statement in mind, as well as these 4 pillars of our culture. So the first one being putting our customers first. As you know, Kohl's is a retailer, and what we learned in 2020 when we had to close our stores is that we are nothing without our customers. So no matter what department you're working in across the company, whether it's design, merchandising, finance, human resources, whatever it may be, we have a customer first mindset. And then with that in mind, going down to the next tier, it's all about acting with integrity. So as we're making business decisions that benefit our customer and our associates, we want to make sure that they are aligning with our moral compass as a company. And then the last 2 here are really where our associates come into play. So building great teams across the company that center around working together, communication, making quick decisions, all of that stuff kind of building into the first 2 tiers. And then ultimately, we are a business. And while we keep customers and our associates in mind, we do want to drive results and ultimately drive sales. All right, so I am zipping through this to give us a lot of time to hear from our reps, but wanted to just kind of go over some new initiatives in the past couple of years to give more context to what we're doing at Kohl's today. So as I mentioned previously, in 2019, we launched our Amazon returns program, which hopefully everyone on this call is semi-familiar with what that is now. But this was a pretty cutting edge program where you could bring literally anything that you purchase on Amazon unpackaged back to a Kohl's store, and it would be a free return. So you're probably asking, how does this benefit Kohl's? And it really is all about driving foot traffic. So our goal here was to bring in new customers who maybe were coming in just for the Amazon return, but when they're walking into a Kohl's store, they see something that catches their eye. They get a Kohl's coupon from doing an Amazon return, and then it all snowballs, and hopefully they are a repeat customer. So kind of keep that in mind. It's all about driving foot traffic and jumping into this next initiative. So this is something that is new in the last 2 years as well, but it's something that we are calling Curated by Kohls. So think of ads that you see on Instagram, you're being influenced on social media, even TikTok, and we're bringing those new and exciting brands to Kohl's. So again, when we're driving new foot traffic, we want to be able to catch the customer's eye with new and exciting product. So this is really where Curated comes in to play. They're walking into a Kohl's and they're seeing something that maybe surprises them about the department store that they've never seen in the store before, but it's curated to be relevant to a younger generation. All right, so the next big one is Sephora, which is a huge announcement that we made at the tail end of 2020. So by this fall, 2021, we will have opened 200 Sephora locations. So this again is about driving foot traffic, a new customer base, and really creating a younger repeat customer. So thinking about how we can target a younger generation and keep them coming back for more. So these pictures here are just a mock-up. Obviously, they're just photos, but you can see the scale of the floor pad that Sephora will have in our stores. So if you are a Sephora fan, they will have an additional 850 locations by 2023 within Kohl stores. So exciting thing to look forward to. And then the next two pieces are apparel based. And this is something that we are really taking advantage of. This was an initiative pre-pandemic, was to really take advantage of the athleisure trend. But this is something that as a Kohl's brand, we have the ability to develop private label brands that are developed in-house. We have complete creative control, as well as branding, marketing, so on and so forth. So we launched Flex in March of 2021. That's only a month ago, which is crazy. But this trend is really taking advantage of people working from home. I don't know about everyone else on this call, but I'm currently wearing sweatpants, taking advantage of a commuter lifestyle, so on and so forth. So really competing with different athleisure brands that are at a higher price point, where we can offer our customer equal quality at a lower price point. And then the last one here that I like to touch on is our adaptive clothing line. And the reason I like to bring this up prior to talking with our business reps, as well as talking about our internships, is that this program was actually an intern project idea 3 or 4 summers ago now. My math is probably off, but this is something that our merchant interns do a Shark Tank project where they're given a prompt over the course of a week and they're asked to identify a business opportunity. And this is one of the ideas that they came up with, and they presented it to leadership, and leaders basically looked at each other and said, we have the means to make this happen. Why have we not already been doing this? How do we get this in the works? So this was presented one summer, and then a year later it was launched online. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, you're probably the best person to know this, but I don't know if it's in stores now. No, not in stores.
It's an online only.
Thank you. Online only line, and they're looking now to expand it to adult adaptive as well. All right, so that is my very quick spiel in 20 minutes. I'm very impressed with myself. So I'm going to hand it over to our business reps to talk about their past, their career path, and their roles and responsibilities at Kohl's, and then we will open it up to Q&A. All right, so we have 4 panelists with us here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves individually, but we have Emily, Lucy, Shelby, and Tanner with us, representing different departments. So Emily, I'm going to hand it over to you first to talk about merchandising.
Hi guys, my name is Emily and I'm an allocation analyst in Women's Sonoma. So I work for the Sonoma brand, which is a Kohl's own brand under the women's pyramid. So I only focus on women's and then specifically bottoms. So anything that's like pants, shorts, capris, dresses, skirts. I work with those specifically. I do touch other parts of the business, but bottoms is my forte. I got a BBA in marketing and supply chain operations management from UWM. I graduated last May, so May of 2020. I was an intern at Kohls in 2019 in the merchandising world. And then I worked as a brand rep for the internship program throughout my senior year at UWM. And then I returned full-time in an allocation analyst role in July of 2020. So I've only been here for about 10 months, 9 months. But I did get to see the world before by interning, which was a great experience. Coming back to Kohl's, I started in the women's exclusive office, which was Chaps, Simply Vera, Vera Wang, Rockin' Republic, and Elle. With those, I worked on all those brands. And then in September, I was moved over to Sonoma to work on bottoms. And then going into some of the merchandising roles and responsibilities. In the merchandising world, we build and create the product orders. So I work with my merchandise planner who creates the finances for our office, and then the merchandise managers who curates the collections to write vendor orders for upcoming seasons. And I just ensure that their vision, the merchandise manager's vision, aligns with the plans and needs of the brand. So since we're a Kohl's own brand, we work with design, PD, we work with marketing across the board to make sure everyone's vision is aligned. And then when I'm writing those orders, I just make sure that the delivery dates are on time, we're getting them to the stores when we need it, and then we're executing units to fulfill all of the stores that we have. And then along with that, when those units come in, I manage the inventory distribution. So we determine as a team the best allocation strategy for those units. We want to make sure that we're sending them to the right stores to help drive the sales. You can't really do sales if you're sending the wrong amount of units to the wrong stores, or if you're sending shorts to stores that are primarily in like a colder climate like Wisconsin. So we work with that really closely to make sure that our product gets to where it needs to go. And then hand in hand with that, I analyze the current business that we have. So I really look into sales and inventory metrics across the business to help determine what is driving our sales and what's draining our sales, so that we can go back and we can look at those allocation strategies that we set and make sure that they align with what we need for future sales. And then that goes into planning next steps going forward so that we can look at fall of 2021, fall of 2022, and so on, so that we can continue to grow as a company.
Cool. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Lucy, and I'm a designer here at Kohl's. I work on Jumping Beans and Disney collections, which are private labels that are only offered here at Kohl's. And I specifically focus on any product, dresses, tops, bottoms, shorts, what have you, for girls 4 to 8 size ranges. So I have a little bit of a twisty, turny path to how I came to where I am. As you see here, I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Printmaking from UW-Madison. I also have a Bachelor's of Science in Art History. And then I serendipitously ended up in a Master's of Fine Arts program focusing on textile and apparel design, which I graduated from in 2014. I actually started as a freelancer at Kohl's. I got a cold call from a headhunter that was looking for some contract work. And I started in spring of 2016 for Croft & Barrow, which is another Kohl's owned brand. And I returned full-time in fall of 2016 to work on Jumping Beans. So I've been on the kids team my whole time here, and now specifically focusing on those private categories that I just mentioned. All right, so what do we do in design? It spans the gamut. I mean, we're really responsible for the ideation of a product all the way up to the physical creation of the product by the vendor. So it starts with research and trend forecasting. For us, it's really understanding the use of color, of fabric, of silhouette and trend, really looking at the culture of where we're living and understanding how that culture is shaping the retail landscape. And then how do we look at the retail landscape and our competitors to understand what we need to bring into our product for our Kohl's customer that would be relevant in the trends that he or she is looking for. Within that, once we kind of do the whole research and trend forecasting, we work with what we call our cross-functional partners. So that would be the merchandising department, the art department, our production department. And we make sure that we're identifying the right products at the right cost to make sure that we're building relevant merchandise for our customers, but we're also making sure that we're giving them a great value and that it's fitting within the brand aesthetic of the specific brand that we're working on. And then once we're sort of within that realm, the end all be all is executing that merchandise. So making sure that we're working closely with our cross-functional partners to really finalize physical swatches, artwork, samples, fabrications, and silhouettes to truly bring that product to life and then get it out to the customer.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Shelby, and I'm a promotional strategy coordinator. So a little background, I studied entrepreneurship and marketing at the University of Minnesota. I started at Kohls as an intern in 2018, was a brand rep my senior year of college for the program, and then returned full-time in 2019. And I've been on the promotional strategy team that entire time I was an intern, and I'm still here. So kind of live and breathe promo strategy at this point. Awesome. So what is promo strategy? It probably doesn't mean much to someone outside of Kohl's, but essentially our team is in charge of planning the cadence of promotional events and offers. So like Britt mentioned earlier, Kohl's Cash is something that plan comes out of my team. If we have any coupons in market, that cadence comes out of our team. And then where I kind of fall is more on the role of price and pricing events at Kohl's. So if you're familiar at all with any of our sales, things would be like an epic deals event where it's totally price led, there's no coupon in market. I work on determining the cadence of when we have those events and then the strategy of those specific events. Another part, I kind of touched on this already, but is building pricing and promo event strategies for these specific events. So this involves identifying new opportunities and then building strategies to help support those new initiatives. So if we've identified a market share moment that we want to come with a new promo event that we've never done before, that's where I would come in and kind of do all of the upfront planning to see what we'd want to do and then help bring it to life. So a big part of my role is kind of managing the development of those strategies, but I'm also there as a partner all the way through execution. So if it's from the ideation stage to the strategy we want to work on, and then actually seeing it come to life in our marketing to make sure it's executing the way we want, I'm there kind of all of the steps of the process. So from a marketing campaign perspective, it's really cool to see kind of your upfront strategy and then actually have it come to life in your marketing plans.
Hey guys, my name is Tanner. I am a senior financial analyst. And I actually came from Indiana. I did my undergrad and my master's in accounting at Indiana University. And I actually interned twice. I was fortunate enough to do the internship twice in 2017 and 2018. And then I came back full-time in 2019. And so I've been here just under 2 years now, back full-time. I started on financial reporting. And I still technically report through the financial reporting team, but as of the start of 2021, I actually moved over to Sephora. So I'm glad Brittany talked about it a little bit. That is my life every day now. So I am quite deep in on the Sephora stuff. As far as finance, I kind of try to stay high level here because we do a lot in finance. We cover a lot of different areas and there's a lot you can do. But kind of at a high level, the first thing that we do is we forecast and we budget for future performance. So we, way ahead of time and work with our merchants and work with everyone else to come up with the sales plan. And then depending on that sales plan, we flow it through all of our expenses because all of that's going to be affected by the sales plan. And so we work really closely with all of our teams to figure out what our future performance is going to look like and try to as closely monitor it and get as close as we can with planning it and then also forecasting constantly throughout the year to see to try to keep on top of everything. And then this second category is more where my team would fall in the financial reporting. We also report on prior period performance. So we look at what actually has happened, see how close it was to our budget, see how close it was to last year. And then my team especially works on how we communicate that internally and externally, whether that's through our like reports that we send to the SEC or whether that's like internal reports that we send to the upper level management to look at our performance on the year. And one thing that I think that, I mean, all these other guys have touched on a little bit, but we communicate with the business in every area. Like there is not an area of business that finance doesn't touch. We have people that communicate with our merchants. We have people that communicate with marketing. We have people that communicate with logistics. And so we touch pretty much every business, and a lot of our job is communicating with them and being able to help them figure out the finance side of things and them help us try to figure out the rest of the business. So I think communicating with the business is a big thing. And just to go to Brittany's point, I got to prove one of her points here. I'm actually at the office, and on the wall there is to inspire families to lead fulfilled lives sign. So I had to prove her point. When she said that, I was laughing.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Thank you, Tanner. It's a huge point proven. Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap up really quickly before we open it up to Q&A to talk a little bit more about just how the internship program works. So you heard from 4 different representatives from 4 different departments, but just know that that is not inclusive of every single department that we offer. So if there is a role that you are looking for, feel free to throw it in the chat, but we can also talk more specifically. My last slide here will be our website. So if there's an opportunity that you're still looking for, all of our job descriptions are listed there as well. But the internship program is inclusive of all departments, and it functions similarly no matter what area you're interning in. But it is 10 weeks throughout the summer, usually end of May to beginning of August. And it's paid. We do provide housing. Granted, the internship eventually returns to being in person. We are 100% virtual this summer, but we look for students who are heading into their senior year. So you're going to be interning the summer after junior year, which Tanner mentioned he interned twice, which is something that we do offer in some departments. If you're like taking an extra year, getting your master's, or maybe you're a senior, sometimes in design, we make exceptions to that rule. But just so you know, it usually is reserved for junior level students. And then the goal throughout the entire 10 weeks is you're placed on a team within the department that you interview in, and you're given a manager as well as a coach. And the coach is usually someone who is in the entry-level position that you would potentially return to. And their job is really to be a peer mentor throughout the 10 weeks, answer any questions you have about daily responsibilities, help you answer emails, bring you to meetings, help you with additional projects that you're working on, and just really be a resource throughout your 40 hours a week that you're with us at Kohls. And then the goal at the end of the 10 weeks is to offer you a full-time role to come back following senior year. So we are conversion based, and we know that during the 10 weeks, it's a two-way street. So we are evaluating you and your skill set and potential, and you are evaluating us to determine if Kohls is a place that you want to work. So that's a very high level overview of what the internship program is. But if you have any more specific questions, happy to answer them at the end. And then the only other thing I wanted to touch on here is an opportunity for sophomores. So I did see we have some freshmen on the call, and this is something to think about for next year. But every single spring, we offer through the early talent team what we call our sophomore career expo. And it's a program that really is driven by career exploration. So at the very beginning of the program, you choose a track that you're interested in. And that can be anything from business, creative, finance, technology, so on and so forth. And during the program, you'll hear more specifics on the roles within those tracks, as well as professional development, leadership panels, resume reviews, the list goes on and on. But this takes place every year, usually in the April-May timeframe. So if you're a freshman this year, just think about next year in spring semester. If you're interested in applying, that's something that you can do to get your foot in the door for the internship, because every single participant in Sophomore Expo will be guaranteed a first round interview for the internship the following summer. So it's a really great way to get ahead of the rat race that is fall recruitment season. So if you know you're interested in Kohls, this is a really great way to kind of get ahead of the curve. All right, my last slide before I stop talking is our contact information. So at Kohl's campus is the best way to keep track of what the early talent team is up to throughout the year, whether it's career fairs, virtual presentations. I can't even think of anything else that we do right now, but the list goes on. So follow us on Instagram and Twitter to kind of stay up to date with what we're doing. And then if you ever need to contact me directly or any of the recruiters on our team, the best way to do so is earlytalent@kohls.com. So if you have specific questions about internships we offer, or maybe Sophomore Expo next year, you can email me and just address me directly, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then the last one here is kohlsoncampus.com. This is where all of our additional job listings will be posted. So I see a question just came through. Are the internships posted on Handshake? The answer is yes, they are. But Kohls on Campus is where the job descriptions will live year round. And then the internships are posted on Handshake, usually in the August timeframe is when we'll start hiring juniors for the internship in 2022. All right, that is it for me. We do want to open it up to Q&A if you want to chat in your questions. I don't know, Dan, if you got any on your end already.
I see one that just popped up here. Are there any job openings virtually? Is that, I'm assuming they're referencing, well, I guess if you could speak on the how Kohls is operating currently, both intern, and you mentioned virtual in the summer.
Yeah.
But is that the case for full-time?
Yes. So our internship this summer is virtual. We are planning on eventually returning to fully in-person internship. So hopefully next year. As far as full-time job openings, it really depends on the department that you're in, whether or not they'll be offered remote. I would say that departments right now across the company are kind of determining how that will look going forward. So the best answer I can give is TBD, but if you're interested in roles in technology specifically, those roles are most likely going to be offered remote. All right, Kim says, what does the recruitment process and timeline look like? Applications, interviews, etc. Kim, can you tell me if you're referencing internship or full-time? Internship, perfect. Okay, so the recruitment process usually kicks off in the fall semester. So August, September is Early Talent's busiest time frame. And we will interview most candidates in first round interview in September. And then we try and wrap up all final interviews before Thanksgiving. So usually the beginning of November is when our fall hiring is wrapped up. I will say that the majority of our roles within marketing, merchandising, finance, HR, any of the big business ones are filled during the fall. So if you're interested in interning with Kohls, apply immediately in August when you see those roles posted on Handshake, because we do the majority of our hiring in that time frame. And then our offer extensions are kind of on a rolling basis throughout October and November. So you could potentially have an internship offer by the holidays next year, or well, in 2021. Do you have to be very well experienced? I think that depends on the role that you're interviewing for. So in certain aspects, I know Lucy can probably touch on this from a design or art perspective. We do ask that you have experience in Illustrator, Photoshop, kind of any of the Adobe suite. Computer science, I would say we teach a lot of what you need to know on the job, and I think that goes for every department, but specifically with computer science programming aspects, we do have a test that you'll take, a coding test that you'll take during your interview process. So that's something that you would need to be able to pass, so to say, or so to speak, to get through the interview process. And then what types of qualities do you look for most in candidates? I will answer for myself, and then I'm going to have the reps answer just on some qualities that they think are good to have in their departments. As an early talent recruiter, I look for obviously majors that match up kind of with the responsibilities of the job and what you would be learning, as well as extracurricular involvement. So every recruiter is a little bit different on what they look for initially, but I think for me is seeing that you're involved in things other than just your classes. So are you in student organizations? Do you have leadership roles within those organizations? Are you working part-time during your time in college? There's even ways to put on your resume if you are funding your education, which always looks great to a hiring manager to see that you're in classes, but also working through school. So those are just some things on a resume that I look for. But I'll hand it over to Shelby to kick things off. If you could just go through maybe some qualities that you see in successful coordinators.
Yeah, for sure. I would say a big thing we talk about on our team, because we have to influence everyone that we're working with from a strategy perspective to bring it to life. We call it influencing change. So I'd say a quality that we look for in someone successful in this role is willing to ask questions, be inquisitive, and then willing to kind of take that first step forward to go and solve a problem, because they happen all the time, especially when we are kind of setting a strategy at the highest level. But as it gets kind of trickled down throughout the process, there might be questions or people might be pushing back in the right areas. So that's something that I would say is a huge component of what we do and what we kind of look for across our teammates.
I can go next. Something that it kind of touches on what they've already talked about, but something that we talk about a lot is communication, and being able to communicate, because of like what I talked about with finance. Like if you're not able to communicate with people across the business and get your ideas across and be able to, communicate well and communicate and understand them and be able to listen to them, that's going to be something that, is very, very important to our job. So I always, like, if I'm at a career fair, I pay more attention to how someone communicates with me and how well they can hold a conversation and talk about themselves, than actually, some internship you've had before on your resume or something like that. I think communication skills are huge, at least for us in finance. Lucy or Emily, do you guys have anything?
Yeah, I can go next, Tanner. I think there are some initial things you need to know just from a design aspect in order to kind of be successful. So I think, understanding the customer lens, being able to tell a story through product that will, appeal to the customer. But honestly, the biggest thing that I look for, I think there's a lot of things that you learn in the internship and a lot of the programs and processes that we work on. But the biggest thing that I look for is somebody who has grit and is willing to like get in there and work hard and be humble and just like learn as much as they can. That can go a really, really long way. The thing I always say is you kind of want to make yourself so invaluable to your team. They're a little bit sad when they lose you. So I think that can be a really good benefit, and shows that you have that passion and determination.
And then speaking for the merchandising world, I would say combining everything that everyone's already talked about. So problem solving, communication, things like that, like having grit, but then also like owning confidence. My world is the last world that touches the inventory before it hits the stores. So you have to be confident in what you're doing. Also willing to learn. So each office, each manager wants their office run differently. So when I switched, I had to learn all new processes, all new reports, all new ways of looking at sales. But then you need to be confident in it too, so that you can go to your buyer and say, hey, I found this. I think we should do this with inventory. Or I think we need to buy more in this at some point because she loves it, type of thing. So just owning all those other qualities, but then also being confident in yourself as a person and as like a coworker and a teammate.
I love that point too. And I wanted to touch on this as well. So Emily mentioned that she obviously interned with Kohls, but has only been back full time for 10 months. And she's already having those conversations where she's owning a piece of the business and she's an expert in that aspect of her office. So it's up to her to have those conversations with people that could be 7 to 10 years her senior, but they are trusting her with that work. So I think it speaks volumes to just coming into an entry-level position. Kohls respects and expects the perspective from everyone, no matter what level they are.
And I can touch on that again, just to say that I would think, at least for me coming in, being like a 23-year-old college graduate, they actually really respect opinions of the newer people around, just because we're coming in with a fresh set of eyes. Like, my buyer has been at Kohls for like 12 years, so she knows the ins and outs. She's been the buyer for Sonoma for about 5, I believe. So she sees the product every day, but then me coming in, she would always ask me questions like, what do you think about this? What do you have any ideas on this? Just personal opinions too, because we just offer a different perspective. And that's really important when you want a company to continue to grow, is not to be stuck in your ways. And then to answer the question that just popped into the chat, I did not have any prior sales experience. I got my degrees in marketing and supply chain. And then in high school, I worked the general jobs that everyone else did. So it's kind of just something that you learn as you go. And Kohls is great about that too. They give you all the tools that you need to fully understand your position.
Okay, what about freshmen who are planning to apply next year? What if you've worked at unrelated jobs for this internship? Okay, first I will say that freshmen that are applying for next year, you would be eligible for the sophomore expo, but not the internship program until your junior year. And unrelated jobs to the internship, I would say, is not a bad thing. I think we look for just past experience in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be a past internship in that field or even related work. If you have retail experience, obviously that is beneficial, but it's absolutely not required. All right, what are the social media marketing opportunities currently available at Kohls? So this kind of depends on the year and the need of the team within marketing. The social PR team is pretty small comparatively speaking. So it depends on the year, but they can have like 1 intern a summer. So TBD on that for next year, but I would say it's usually 1 to 2 interns in that space, but they would fall under the marketing internship if you're interested in applying.
I just have a question for you, Brittany, is as it relates to, it seemed like a good chunk of the audience were seniors or so I'm guessing people who are going to be graduating this May. And the panelists are all former interns that made it into the full-time role. And I know that's Kohl's goal, is to really have the internship be a feeder pool. What, for those who haven't interned with Kohl's, what would be some recommendations you'd have for those people to look for opportunities? I mean, obviously going to your website, but anything, I guess, any additional touch points that you might recommend?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, just looking for specific open roles on our website before trying to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. I think if you're reaching out to recruiters, whether you have their actual contact information or via LinkedIn, it helps to be referencing a specific role that's open. If you are interested in specific open opportunities and you do email the early talent at kohls.com email, I can always pass along resumes and prior experience to the right recruiter. But I will say our corporate talent side for those open roles that would be full-time are very active and responsive on LinkedIn, which is usually the best pipeline and way to reach them other than just applying and kind of sending your resume into the abyss. And I know Lucy also mentioned this too, but working with an external recruiting agency or even a headhunter can sometimes be beneficial to just get your foot in the door. I don't know, Lucy, if you have anything else to add on that side of it, but.
No, I totally agree. The person who contacted me actually found my LinkedIn and thought that just my qualifications kind of aligned with what they were looking for. So, you know, keeping your social media and your LinkedIn pretty robust and filled in can be really helpful. And from a design aspect, we are always looking for contractors, freelance, different sorts of positions that are great to get your foot in the door. And as somebody who didn't do the internship, it was really good experience, which is helpful when those full-time positions do become available.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, going back. Do you take interns that are recent graduates? So our general rule of thumb is usually no, but we do have departments that we hire full-time on campus. It's just through our corporate talent acquisition team versus our early talent team. So if there are specific roles that you're interested in, we do hire a lot of people off campus within the finance department, as well as Lucy mentioned, some freelance within art design and sometimes even creative marketing. So it kind of depends what role you're interested in, but we don't normally take interns that have just graduated. And the reason being is we are conversion based, like I mentioned, and we usually give the business a year between when you intern and when you come back full time to find a position to place you in, because the way it works is you're interning and then a year from then you're being placed in an open role that probably didn't exist previously. There's a lot of logistics behind that, but I hope that makes sense. Okay, sorry, Bailey, I'm reading your question. Okay, I was just actually surprised about Sephora being at certain Kohl's locations. I'm a regular shopper at Sephora, and I honestly haven't even heard about this merger before. Are there advertisements out there for it, or I've been living under a rock? Tanner's our resident Sephora expert, but yes, there have been ads and announcements.
Yeah, we announced it in December, but that's not necessarily an advertisement. So this actually is going to be launching in August. So coming up this summer, you'll start to see a lot more advertisements for it. So not necessarily, it has been announced, but if you're not perusing maybe Wall Street Journal or something like that, you maybe wouldn't have heard of it yet.
What opportunities for product photography, or is that more contract work related? So we haven't even touched on this. I'm glad you brought it up. We do have our Kohl's photo studio, which is also located out towards Menomonee Falls. Those opportunities we do not have internships for, and they do look for, I would say, freelance / contract work is probably, they do hire full-time there too. But those will also be posted on our website. And if there are open roles right now, if you're interested and want to just reach out to me directly, I can get you in contact with the right recruiter. How much sales experience do you need? I'm not sure if you're talking about like cold calling sales or retail sales, but the answer is none across the board. I would say any past experience that you have coming into the internship is, got it, retail sales, thank you. Not required. You don't even need to have any. I would say it's more of a bonus to have it, but it's not required. Again, you learn most of the skills on the job. Even in merchandising, as Emily mentioned, it's helpful to have a customer-facing mindset, but you don't necessarily have to work in stores to understand that aspect of the job. But if you do have the opportunity to work retail, I highly recommend. I think it can only help you. Cool. Is there anything that I can put on a resume to help a candidate stand out besides retail experience? I would say I'm going to just rattle off a list of things. If anyone has anything else to add, please do. But I would say if there's a GPA that you're proud of, any relevant majors or minors, anything education related, if you have had a study abroad experience, if you are participating or very invested in a student organization, AKA have a leadership role, basically doing anything other than just claiming that you're a member is very helpful. Any work experience that you've had, current or prior, and then if you're invested in any volunteer work, that's also a really great thing to put on your resume. Any relevant skills like within art and design, if you have Adobe Suite skills, anything with technology, coding, programming, so on and so forth, definitely put that on there as well. What Microsoft Office skills do you need for the finance internship? Maybe last question, Tanner.
Yeah, I think any kind of experience you have in Excel is helpful. And I think even in the merchant world, I think they use Excel quite a bit. Emily, you can give a nod if you agree, but I don't think it's necessarily like any kind of requirement, like that we have you've taken a certain class. We can help like teach through anything more in depth, but having basic Excel skills is usually something that we look for.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just going to answer this really quick question before we wrap up. Speaking other languages is a huge bonus. We actually are in marketing looking for just in general bilingual copywriters. There is I think they're going to be an increased need for things like that within the marketing department and even within merchandising. So huge bonus there. Definitely put that on your resume too. I'm not sure if you asked that resume question previously, but love that. We are short on time and I actually have to jump into another presentation and I'm taking Tanner with me. But if you have any other questions, feel free to either reach out to that early talent email or funnel them through Dan. He can pass them along to me. But just want to thank you guys all for your time and your questions. This was amazing, but you know how to find us.
Thank you so much, Brittany and team. Really appreciate your partnership specifically with UW Milwaukee, and I appreciate your willingness to present to the entire UW system school. Just a reminder that this is something that was recorded. So if you want to go back to review some of the presentation materials, you're more than welcome to do so once it's posted on the website. Also, just a special thank you to the UW System Career Track Committee, which consists of about a person per school that made this all happen, this whole concept. It's something that we're actually planning on doing virtual or not next year. So we're going to do it virtual, even though we might be physical on campus, because it's been a very successful endeavor to help our students connect with employers like Kohls. So thank you so much again, Kohls, for your time, and you have a great rest of your day.